And at some point, we'll pick up all the pieces from our broken hearts left on the field at Rogers Center last week. But in the meantime, it's all football, and the Ravens are now 3-2 and firing offensive coordinators and making news of their own. It's been a busy little week here to start our week and our first trip to the Meadowlands of 2. Giants this week, Jets next week. Still got some space on the Giants bus this Sunday. If you need some seats on that, hit WNST.net or toss me an email. My next guest is familiar with all things National Football League. He's covered it for a long, long time in various formats. He's currently at Bleacher Report. He's one of our defending champions and a dude we love having on the program. We welcome Jason Cole back on. You can follow his journey at Twitter, Jason Cole BR. That stands for Bleacher Report. And, week 5 when you're firing offensive coordinators, I seem to remember Jason Cole many years ago talking about, what was the line you used, Jason, that I quoted in Purple Rain 2?
It was...
Dancing
on the edge of chaos.
Dancing on the edge of chaos. That's it. Week 5 and firing the offensive coordinator, clearly things weren't going well.
No, not after you score 10 points against a Washington defense, which is not exactly stout, and you run really well in the first quarter, and then you run...
Not at all.
Second half. It just really got out of sorts completely on offense. And I don't think this is based on one game. I think there's not a cohesion here between Mark Trestman and John Harbaugh. If you know the two individuals, I can see why that's probably the case. Mark is not necessarily John's cup of tea. I always thought that was sort of an odd marriage. And Mark is more of a mad scientist, throwing game kind of guy. And as much as Joe Flacco is a talented passer, and I would say the strength of his offense is with the receivers, you can't depend on those receivers because they're kind of old. And I would say that what the Ravens' identity is and what they always want it to be is the ability to run the ball with some authority. And that's simply not what Mark Trestman is cut out to do.
Well, this is the 5th OC since the beginning of the 2012 season for Joe Flacco. I don't know that anybody's ever done that, right? I mean, that's a huge number, and some of it was by firing, and some of it was by trial. I mean, Kubiak was a guy that thought he was going to stick around a while, but it just didn't work out that way, right?
Right. Well, I think Alex Smith went through something similar to that when he was in San Francisco early in his career, going from head coach to head coach, Mike Nolan, and you had Norm Turner and McCarthy and
Roman, maybe.
Yeah, well, and Mike Martz for a little while. So I mean, he went through this kind of thing, and some quarterbacks have done it. It's usually not quite 5 and 5, but this is a tremendous number. It's not. I mean, this is not the way you want it to be. You want an offensive coordinator who's going to stay for at least 3 or 4 years to establish some element of continuity, but. They've won a Super Bowl doing it this way as well.
That's the whole thing. We were sitting around the locker room after the game on Sunday, and Jason, I've been doing this 21 years in the NFL, 32 years altogether, but I've been in every locker room in every situation and missed Billy Cundiff kicks and dropped Lee Evans balls and, all sorts of things. It was kind of spooky in there because guys like Marshall Yanda and Steve Smith just said, I'm not saying anything, which said kind of everything, and the beat writers started to think, well, could this happen? But this happened here before. John is not, I don't want to say itchy trigger finger, but when John makes a decision, it's pretty quick. And much like you, I felt like we were together at the Senior Bowl when this thing happened. I remember doing some radio with you when the whole thing went down with Trestman and Kubiak a year and a half ago. And it really was sort of a shotgun marriage, right? I mean, they thought Kubiak was going to be the guy, then he wasn't. And then it was 48 hours later, Trestman was hired. I felt like, I bet he's never even met Flacco, right?
Right, and I just think that, again, Mark Trestman is a very bright guy with a West Coast background, but the Ravens are not a West Coast team in the literal or figurative sense. They're not a West Coast offense type of unit. So how do you want to establish your identity? What do you want to be? And if you're picking Mark Trestman to be that guy, I mean, to me, it's not a great fit. And look, I know Gary Kubiak, West Coast offense guy, but that was mixed with all the Mike Shanahan stuff, which was specifically designed to open more of the running game. And so the shift from, the true West Coast offense to what Mike Shanahan did with it was to add more running game. Kubiak learned that. It seemed like a more natural fit with Baltimore for what they were doing. But then you go to Trestman, who is more of a direct Bill Walsh West Coast offense disciple. And again, philosophically, you're going backward from what you want your identity to be. This has always been a team that's run it, wanted to establish the run, play power football, because when it gets to cold weather, come late November, December, January, you want to be able to impose your will. And that's how they've always tried to run it there. That's how they've always tried to establish their offense. And to me, Trestman was too much of a drift from that. All of that said, Marty Mornhinweg is a wide open, more pass-based guy. And
I was going to ask you about him because, his track record's even longer than Trestman's, really.
Well, it's about the same. We're talking about guys who are out of the Bill Walsh tree in a sense. Now, Marty's more out of the Mike Holmgren tree, but that all comes out of Walsh. So what are you going to end up with here with Marty Mornhinweg? It seems like to me what John Harbaugh wants is he wants the ball on the ground. He wants to grind it. He wants to pound people. He wants to establish some identity there. And so we'll see if Marty is up to the challenge.
At the end of the day, you got to have the players, though, and they were running the football very, very effectively. Now, offensive line's been in flux here. They're drafting a Ronnie Stanley, trying to get him to the field. Alex Lewis had the concussion. Now Wagner's out, and they've moved Ryan Jensen out there. The offensive line has not had any continuity, and even from the starting point, Jay, they were going to start a left tackle who's a rookie and a left guard who was a rookie. That was on the best day, right? So, to some degree, I don't want to say Trestman's been a fall guy for this. I think the fall guy is him for not running the football because I think this line was drafted more to run than to throw, in my opinion.
Well, excuse me, I would agree with that. And again, that's what they were doing on Sunday.
Until they weren't. Right.
Early on, and then they got away from it. And once they got away from it, you're sitting here going, well, why? This game was never that lopsided that you had to throw the ball around that much. Now, there are a lot of things that combined to cause that loss on Sunday, but I don't want to pin this decision on one game. I don't think that John Harbaugh made this decision based on, we played really crappy in this game against Washington. We should have won. Let's jettison Mark Trestman. This is, I've tried to impress upon my offensive coordinator what I want to establish, and we're not getting there. And we're not establishing the run the way that I want to do it. I need to have somebody who will philosophically do the things that I want him to do. That's what I'm assuming. I have not talked to Trestman. I haven't talked to Mornhinweg. I haven't talked to John Harbaugh yet. Someday when I do, and it may not be soon, but someday, hopefully I'll get a clearer picture out of that, what the problem was, what the disconnect was.
Jason Cole joining us here from Bleacher Report. You can follow him out on Twitter at JasonColeBR or at BleacherReport.com. He covers the National Football League. And, back on to the Ravens and where they're going moving forward. Train ride up to the Giants this week. Train ride up to the Jets next week. We still have some space on our Giants bus. These are winnable games. These are two really pedestrian teams, probably not that dissimilar to the Redskins at this point. The Giants look to be a mess, and the Jets look to be a bigger mess.
I wouldn't disagree with that, but I don't think that – here's my problem, Nestor. I'm not overwhelmed with the Ravens right now. They're a team that has a lot of older guys that they're hoping to get a lot of mileage out of. And older guys coming back off of injury. We've talked about this before. Sykes coming back off injury. Smith coming back off of injury. Pitta coming back off injury. We'll just, go on down the line. Mike Wallace trying to resuscitate his career at age 30. This is a lot of guys with a lot of tread on their tires. And when I look around and I look at the Ravens, I say, what is that they're building with young guys to try and take advantage of, say, the next, what do you got out of Flacco? Another 5 or 6 years out of Flacco, maybe? What are they going to build around? Now, Stanley looks like a building block. The offensive line looks like it has some building blocks. I don't see a lot of skill position guys on offense.
Well, that's where Perryman would come in. That's where, Buck Allen, and now Terrence West has been running the ball. They're trying to get Kenneth Dixon in. So, part of jettisoning Forsett was part of that, right?
None of those guys make you go, wow, like, that's special. But that's the guys that are difference makers for them on offense are still the older guys.
Sure.
And so they have to somehow start to replace those guys and get some more weapons. Otherwise, to me, they're kind of muddling along of a well-coached team that will find its way to somewhere around 8 wins, give or take, depending on bounces, but not enough star-caliber players, guys who can change games enough that will all of a sudden say, okay, this team is ready to make a leap into the playoffs on a regular basis. Again, you can trick it up for 1 year and become reconstitute what they were back in 2012. I just think there are too many ingredients missing. I think guys like Jimmy Smith, he has not come back from the injury yet. Also, I don't think that Jimmy Smith is playing hard. And if Jimmy Smith is not one of your guys, one of your core guys, one of your foundational guys at this point in time, you got some problems.
Well, the Bengals and the Steelers loom, and certainly later in the season, the Bengals look like they're, I don't want to say a shell of their former selves, but certainly they don't look like a 12-win football team. They're not going to be a 12-win football team this year. It looks like they're not going to win the division. And the Steelers look like, minus that Eagles game, to be some sort of juggernaut here. And now Sammy Coates is involved in the offense. And I talked to Brian Billick about that the other day. You and I were together at the Senior Bowl a year and a half ago. He looked to be one of the better players there, and they sort of hit him last year. I mean, he couldn't even get on the field for the Steelers. Now he's a part of the problem if you're trying to cover, talking about Jimmy Smith.
Well, I mean, they did a nice job in getting Sammy Coates of finding a guy who could cover for Martavis Bryant if and when, and it was a matter of when it was going to happen for Martavis Bryant, when he was going to blow up his own career. So they did a nice job getting Coates later in the draft. It was really good selection there. They've done a really good job in the 3rd and the 4th round of picking up wide receivers, getting guys later in the draft. Antonio Brown, another example of that. So Pittsburgh has done a fantastic job with that, of reloading their offense around Ben Roethlisberger. That's exactly what I'm talking about that the Ravens haven't done. They haven't reloaded their offense around Joe Flacco, while Pittsburgh has been able to reload around Ben Roethlisberger, even though they've lost a guy with extraordinary talent like Bryant. They get Le'Veon Bell, they get Antonio Brown, I should say. Yes, you get a guy like Sammy Coates. Marcus Wheaton's a pretty nice number 3 type of player. Eli Rogers is showing some signs, and that in addition to everything else, it's covering for a defense that is also in transition. It's not a great defense, but it's a good defense when they have a lead. When they're in a game and they know that they can score, they play free and easy. When they're behind, as they were in the Eagles game, they get toasted, and that game snowballed on them. So basically, what the Pittsburgh Steelers have done is built an offense-oriented team. They have not really cared here the last 2 or 3 years about building a team that is a run-first team. They just want to get the ball out of Roethlisberger's hands, get it to guys like Le'Veon Bell, get it to Antonio Brown, and set everything up for a big play here or there, and set up their defense to play from a lead. They've done a really good job in a transition as they try and collect more defensive players.
The AFC, the cream's always there. The Patriots, the Broncos, the Steelers. Meanwhile, the NFC is a little topsy-turvy, right? I mean, no one could have predicted this Minnesota start. I think we all knew they had a decent defense. But when you lose Bridgewater, no one was expecting much. This is the story of the year so far. I know enough to know that the best teams the second week of October do not necessarily make the best teams the first week of February, but they're certainly off to a good start in Minnesota.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is a team that's built in the sort of the eyes of a guy like Mike Zimmer, who's a tough guy, resilient guy, is going to come at you and come after you really hard all the time. So I like how this team responds. I like how it responds to adversity, much like I've seen Mike Zimmer respond to adversity. Most famously when his wife died in the middle of the season, and he came back and coached extraordinarily well when he was in Cincinnati. So there's a lot to like about this Minnesota team. I do think that eventually their lack of offensive weapons, somewhere along the line, they're going to hit a little bit of a lag in scoring. I don't think they can score like a lot of other teams. They did a nice job yesterday, against Houston, but I just don't trust that they have enough weapons overall. They've got to get Peterson back, hopefully by the end of the season, get him ready for the playoffs, and hopefully get him integrated into that offense. But as good as Sam Bradford has been, they don't scare me overall.
Dallas got their hands full, right? When this Romo Prescott situation surfaces, at some point it will. But young quarterbacks are the story in the league, other than the Vikings, I think. Rookie quarterbacks coming in and making a difference. We just haven't seen anything like this in the NFL.
No, not for guys to play. I mean, we've seen some reality checks here. Paxton Lynch yesterday comes in, and it's a little bit of a reality check. When all of a sudden he's running around the pocket looking lost. There are some moments there where, okay, the young ones do eventually regress to the norm.
Well, it's supposed to be big for them, right? I mean, we all sit around and talk about how big it gets for them.
Yeah, I mean that game was a little too big for him yesterday. And it was a little bit, when they're playing from behind, their defense is not playing great. It gets a little bit rougher. But the idea that Trevor Siemian, who preceded Paxton Lynch, Dak Prescott, who you mentioned, Jimmy Garoppolo early in, for the first 2.5 games.
Wentz, throw him in there.
Carson Wentz played terrific. Those 4 guys right off the top who, not all of them necessarily rookies, but guys who are getting their first taste of action, certainly. All of them played with a certain amount of patience in the pocket, a certain amount of poise, a certain amount of refusal to get rattled. That's a great sign because we're at a time when a lot of the great quarterbacks in this league are either aging out already or are about to age out. We've lost Peyton Manning this year. You can see that Drew Brees is coming, a couple of years away. Certainly Tom Brady's a couple of years away.
Romo, throw him in there, right?
Romo, you talk about now, to get back to the whole Romo question. Like Jerry Jones made it clear, they're going to go back to Romo because they're going to go with the known quantity. But I think the real issue here is you've got to expect at this point in time that Romo's going to get hurt again. If he gets hurt again, what do you do at that point? I think that's the point where the Cowboys have to say to themselves, if Romo gets hurt again and is as fragile as we think he is, it's time to cut bait and go to Dak Prescott and let him ride it out and see what we can get out of Dak Prescott. But for the time being, yes, go back to Romo, see if he can get you to the Super Bowl, if he can get you through the season, whatever he can do. He's a more proven commodity than Dak Prescott. But what you've seen of Dak Prescott is enough to make you say, okay, I'm not going to tolerate too much more. I don't know. The word is not indecision, but chaos at quarterback. You don't want to have too much more of that.
We don't want to dance on the edge of chaos. I got it in there, Jay. See what I did?
Do. Although it can be daring and fun, and it can result in Super Bowl victories.
And hey, so firing the offensive coordinator. I mean, you were the first one on the scene, back in 2012, and it worked out all right. So we'll see how this one works out. Marty Morningweg in now for Mark Trestman here as our offense coordinator. Jason Cole covers all things NFL exceedingly bluntly out on Twitter as he does his journalism. You can follow him, Jason Cole BR, as well as at Bleach Report. Always great to have you on, Jay. Keep the faith, man. We'll see you somewhere down the line.
No problem.
Always good. There he goes, Jason Cole, Bleach Report, one of our favorite dudes to stop by here and talk about offensive coordinator switches. He famously asked the question in 2012 of John Harbaugh if they were dancing on the edge of chaos after the firing of Cam Cameron. As noted in Purple Rain 2, I might want to point out for you. Having a great week here. We're going to be out at Buffalo Wild Wings Monday and every Monday for best seat in the house, as well as our wing eating competition. That's the Blazing Wing Eating Competition. We got the limo, the $100 gift card, all that good stuff, including the best seat in the house. That's Monday nights at Buffalo Wild Wings in Owings Mills. If you need me, you can find me anytime, anywhere in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day. If you miss anything, it's sitting there for you. You can download the TuneIn Radio app. We come in crystal clear. The morning newspaper ships to you at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That is powered up by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. And last but never least, breaking news. As it happened at 9:33 a.m. on Monday with the firing of Mark Trestman, it comes directly to your your text service on the WNST text service. You can join it by going to WNST.net. It is all brought to you by our friends at Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Now, Dennis will be here on Thursday, driving you home from 3 until 5 with the SSV on WNST and getting you ready for the weekend. We got baseball, we got football, we got seats left on our bus to the Giants game this Sunday. If you want to jump on, toss me an email, nasty@WNST.net. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, as well as streaming live on Facebook Live and our YouTube WNSTV channel. I'm a very available individual. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports. Thanks, Jay.